thank you very much for coming this evening. We are going to be looking at a dip in to assistive technologies with the iPad. The iPad can do a multitude of things, but we're not going to do them all tonight because we'll be here till about midnight and we'll all be frazzled by then. So we are going to be looking at this. So if you don't know me, this is me. I am Mark Morton, Head of ICLT at the Prospect Trust. I'm an APLS, which is an Apple Professional Learning Specialist. You need your teeth in to say that. I'm also an Apple teacher. So I spend a lot of time supporting schools in getting them to embed Apple technology into the classroom to support learning and teaching. And over to my lovely friend over here.
Hi, I'm Stu Young. I'm one of the PE teachers here at Tomlinscope. I'm also an Apple teacher and a Google Educator Level 1. And as part of my role, I am one of the digital champions for the school, supporting the staff and the students in engaging with technology to enhance their learning and teaching.
Yeah, he's very good. I've got to keep him right, though.
Right, carried away.
And later on, I'm going to introduce our guest star. So we have a guest this evening. I'm not going to tell you who, but we'll introduce her later on this evening, and she's going to talk about how she has used assistive technology to support students at Tomlinscope. So an Apple Regional Training Centre, where our job is to deliver really great courses, build skills and confidence of educators, make sure that actually that you can use the technology inside and outside the classroom to support learning. We really want to share best practices, and I think most of the people that come to our sessions come back to us and say, that was really great, I really enjoyed that. So that's all we're trying to do, and inspire you to do, just to challenge yourself. It's always good to have a challenge.
It is, but it's also about us sharing our experience, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not textbook, it's real world. We've
Certainly
lived
is.
this and gone through this journey, so we want to share those experiences with you guys.
We are living this.
We are living this, yeah. We're not at the end of the journey yet.
No. So you can tweet us on @ProspectRTC. You can sign up for any further courses on Eventbrite, or you can send us an email on rtc@theprospecttrust.org.uk. Right, what we're doing this evening. So we've done welcome, we've done introductions. We're going to be looking at accessibility for all this evening. So this is just going to be, as I said, some top tips to get the most from the iPad, and do a little bit of a demo, give you the option to ask lots of questions. There'll be lots of things going into the chat, so please watch that. And Stu will keep posting things into the chat, and it would be really great for you to be involved in this rather than just sitting back and having your glass of wine in your nice cool houses and chilling out while we sweat away in our little warm house here. So accessibility. What does the word accessibility mean to you? Is that in the chat?
Not yet. I'm just putting the.
It's just trying to teach. So you can put that into the chat now. What does the word accessibility mean to you? So while you're thinking about that, so maybe think about the interpretations of what we understand by accessibility. So I think it needs to be quite dynamic. People have changing needs, and the technology needs to be able to shape that need as you're moving through. People's needs change sometimes overnight, and that is really important, that we understand how the technology can help those students or teachers as well. So have we got anything in the chat yet, Stu?
Not yet.
Are people writing? There are people thinking
Emma
about it?
has said making learning accessible for all, no matter what their learning or physical needs.
Yeah, fantastic.
Also accessing learning for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things here as well is it's not just related to those SEND students. It's about removing barriers such as EAL,
nice, Helen. Yeah,
all of those sorts of things as well. So that's really important. So
that's great.
Yeah, usability by the individual, supporting the journey from Emma. Brilliant. Yeah, like all of those.
We like that. So some different categories of need. So Send, Emma will know about that later. Oh, I've just given the game away, Emma, sorry. Is a specific diagnosis. EHCP is a provisional plan for people with diagnosed SEND. So think about those that have got formal diagnosis, but we've got lots and lots and lots of students that have no formal diagnosis, but have an accessibility need, and that could be a temporary need or a permanent need. So we've got to think about how we use that. So a temporary need could be a kid's broken their arm. How do they use the technology to enable that learning not to stop? I had a bike crash a few years ago, and I broke my right finger, so I could hardly write, but so I could do quite a lot with my voice, so it's quite nice. Yeah. Obviously, you've got some more difficult issues where you might find the eyesight is changing, and the iPad can do quite a lot of work for you. So think about all these different things. So just scan through just some of the accessibility functions that the iPad can look at or can cope with. And believe it or not, we're going to get through quite a lot of this evening. I'm thinking about my brother-in-law, who is a musician, and he's nearly 70 now, but in his life, he's always played the piano. He supports a choir. He's accompanied them for 50 years, and he's beginning to lose his hearing. So actually, his iPad allows him to, and his phone, to connect directly to his hearing aid so that he can hear better, which is great. So thinking about those people in school that have that specific need. So think about the four main categories of needs. So we've got visual needs, we've got motor functions, we've got hearing, and we've got cognitive needs. So you can see all these things that we take for granted, quite a lot of us, on any given day. Students take for granted, and when that then when you then develop a need, or something happens where you can't take things for granted, you need to think about all these things, and we've got to then think about how we can support that. So difference is not a disability. So dyslexia, autism, ADHD or ADD, they're conditions, they're not disabilities. So people with dyslexia face challenges such as reading and sequencing and processing, but they're not disabilities. They're often compensated by actually highly developing other skills and abilities such as oral communication, social interaction, that actually hide some of those disabilities or challenges. People with autism may face challenges with organization, understanding, processing, but then have highly developed skills of logic and problem solving. I can think of a few students that we have here at school that fall into that category. Many people with a diagnosis will be on a spectrum, maybe have varying degrees of need. Many people with dyslexia, ADD, autism, maybe, or possibly accept their difference and have turned it into a strength. And that's really important. So you can then think about some very famous people in the world that have gone on to do amazing things, and they don't accept their difference or their disability to stop them. So we like to link what we're looking at with research, and Hattie's visible learning research recognizes that technology with learning needs students has the ability to potentially accelerate student achievement. So effect size of 0.57, anything above 0.4 is good. There's quite a lot of his research where he says that if you just give the technology to somebody, then it has zero effect. What you need to do is think about how the technology is going to be used. And Stu can, there's a link at the bottom of the links and questions for that learning metrics into the chat. Stu will post it in the chat. Now, just as a reminder, the chat will, when you leave the meeting, you'll lose access to it. So if you want to open the links before you leave, so that those chats come in. It's the big boss.
The big boss is here.
It's the big boss. So, right. So let's look at this. Some practicals. Let's look at how we can then support the iPad or get the iPad to support us in what we do. I can't even remember the number on the iPad. There we go. Right, let's get this up on the screen. All right, and there we go. Have we got that? Yeah, we're just a bit slow tonight.
Yeah.
Oh dear goodness. Stu.
It's just a little bit behind.
Yeah. Right, we're up. Have you got me?
Not yet. Yep.
Yep. Oh dear.
No. Yep.
We're up.
We're up.
Oh,
We're good.
we're having a bit of a heat issue here. Right, so thinking about this, if you've got an iPad in front of you at the moment, maybe work through these together with me. So we're going to set up some learning just to make life a little bit easier. And the first thing I'm going to do is look at the assistive touch feature on the iPad. So let's access the assistive touch feature. So we're going to click on settings on the iPad. If you don't know where settings is, pull down your iPad, type in settings, and then it's there, obviously behind time. And then what we're then going to do is we're going to scroll down to accessibility. And then we're going to tap on the button that says touch. Now, so at the top of the screen, you can see assistive touch is off. Okay, I'm going to turn that on. So I tap on that and then a slide assistive touch on. Okay. And what will then happen is, can you see there's a little button on the bottom of the screen that has now appeared. It's now flying around my screen, nice and behind. This is very odd. So, but when you tap on that assistive touch, it gives you a lot of stuff that you might not want. And actually, I don't want any of these things. So I'm going to customize this. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to click on where it says customize top level menu. I'm going to tap on that. And then you can see, when it catches up with me, that there's a number of different icons on the screen. I'm going to reduce these icons down to 1. Okay. Now, I'm going to then, once it's down to 1, there it is, it's caught up with me. I'm going to tap on that icon, and then I can choose what I want that to do. I don't know about you, but if you want to take a screenshot on the iPad, it can be a bit of a struggle, especially with little primary fingers when they've got to hold the off button and the home button, and you end up either pressing the home button, Siri comes on, or pressing the off button, your iPad switches off. It is a bit of a nightmare. So I'm just going to scroll down here, and I'm going to go down to where it says screenshot. I'm going to tap on that. And that means I now have one thing in my menu, screenshot. Okay, so my assistive touch button, if I tap on that now, it takes a screenshot. That's quite nice, quite easy. If you've got an Apple Pencil, you don't need to worry about any of this, but most people don't. So I'm going to press done. Let's delete that screenshot. So we've set that up. So how might using accessibility features support all the learners in the classroom? Stick that in the chat for me, please, Stu. It's gone to sleep. It's because it's so hot up here, I think it is.
All right, I'm ready.
He's there. So how might using accessibility features support all the learners in your classroom? Just stick that into the chat. Tell me what you think. I'm just going to go back a little bit, and while you're doing, we'll let my iPad catch up a little bit. So Elsa's off. She's flying through. We can see her little dots. Emma's Flint
going as well.
It's like a race to the finish. So lots of things. So think about that. How might using accessibility features support all the learners in the classroom? Just even, it could be that one specific thing that we've set up. As you can see, that the assistive touch, there are lots of gestures in here, but we just want that one thing that we think can make a difference. And we're going to use that in a little second. Okay. So while you're doing that, Stu can stop me and then and tell me all the amazing things that you're telling us.
So many ways. We're using to support a child with dyslexia and memory issues to read text to help them organise.
Brilliant, fantastic. And that's something that is absolutely fantastic. Our students use the read function up a huge amount. Verbalise your ideas, Elsa. Yes. Yeah. You got a little boy in year 3 who doesn't want to write, but they can speak. So therefore you can just get on think customize individual needs,
Yeah.
Helen. Yes, absolutely.
I think that's really important as well. Just that little snapshot there.
Yeah.
Of that assistive touch menu to be able to just bring up other options.
Yeah.
Rather than it just being the screenshot, having those other things is
much
invaluable
easier
for some students.
So I'm just going to dig in a little bit deeper, and I am going to, while I'm in settings, I'm just going to look at how I can. I'm just going to switch on a few other things in here. So I've gone back a couple of steps, and you can see there I'm in the main accessibility area, and I'm going to click on cheaper than using a clicker.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to click on spoken content. Now, spoken content, this is where we switch on speak selection, if my iPad can catch up. There it is, speak selection. So I'm going to tap on speak selection. Now, I would suggest that the button that you want to slide on is speak selection at the top. Speak screen is also great, but the issue with the speak screen is that when you swipe with 2 fingers at the top of the screen, it will start reading from the top left of the screen everything that's on that screen. And actually, what you want to do is have a little bit of modicum of control. You might know some students that maybe need everything being spoken to them, but it's about deciding what you switch on and what you switch off. What I'm then going to do, yes, Stu, go.
Nikki's just said to record ideas to come back to let the child go with their thoughts without having to write them down straight away.
Yeah.
It comes back to what we were talking about at previous sessions.
Yes.
With the dictation and the transcribing and what have you as really useful tools as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. So a few things that we can do just to support the content that is being read. If we type on where it says highlight content and tap on here, you can see that it opens up a menu when my iPad catches up with itself. So this is completely customizable. I can highlight words. I could highlight sentences. I could highlight words and sentences. And actually, when I'm asking students to set this up for themselves, I will ask them to experience it for themselves, which is really key because it's so specific to that learner and that person. So you've really got to understand what it is that you want to see. So we can underline words or sentences, we can underline the colors, and we can then look at highlighting different colors. So it could be somebody with that has a visual disability that actually specifically they want it to be blue, and they want the sentence color to be green or yellow or pink. It doesn't matter. So they can look at that and find out what is best for them. And we're going to look at this later on in the session.
And I think what's quite nice about those highlight colours as well is they're quite pastel colours.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
They are quite pale highlights. They're not really bright and garish like you think of normal highlights.
Yeah.
They do really help the students to pick out the text
absolutely, a lot clearer. Absolutely. And you could decide either I don't want it coloured, I want it underlined, and students can then make the decisions for themselves. The next thing I'd like to do is look at setting up Siri. Now, Siri is a great little tool to enable those that find it difficult to access information or look up information. They can get Siri to do quite a lot of it for them. So Siri will spell things. You can use her as a thesaurus. You could ask her to look things up. Or set a reminder, or ask her to do multiple different things. So let's look at how we set Siri up. She can even open apps now, which is great. So I'm going to click Siri and search. To switch Siri on, I'm going to click on press the top button for Siri. And then I'm going to click on enable Siri. Okay. First thing I'm then going to do is to click on Siri voice, and I can change the voices.
Hi, I'm Siri. Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
So we can have a voice, a female voice or a male voice, and obviously we could have an American Siri, an Indian Siri, a South African Siri. It's completely up to the student. I'm going to allow Siri when locked. Just put my passcode in. There we go. And the good thing about allowing that is that the iPad can be left on the desk locked. Student might have their headphones in and they can ask Siri to look up something for them if they're maybe writing or doing something else, and Siri can then engage with them. I'm going to switch on the listen for Hey Siri and set her up so that I can just say Hey Siri and then she'll look up things for me. So let's set that up. Hey Siri. Hey Siri, send a message. Hey Siri, what's the weather like today? Hey Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes. Hey Siri, play some music. There we go, and that's Siri ready to go. So if I lock my iPad, I could be working on something that I am keen to do. So for instance, hey Siri, spell discombobulated.
Discombobulated. D-I-S-C-O-M.
Great. So if I want to stop her, I can just tap on her and I can see what we've got there. That's really great. So that's on the lock screen. Don't even need to unlock it. She'll open different apps, so if my iPad's unlocked. So there we go. Hey Siri, search for The Shard.
The only option I found is The Shard on London Bridge Street in London. Would you like that one?
No thanks. There we go.
I didn't find anything else.
Thank you very much. So you can see that she's pretty good at finding things. So I could do, hey Siri, look up The Shard on Safari.
Okay, I found this on the web for The Shard.
Yeah,
Check
great.
it out.
And that is going to be quite important about our next section. Okay, now that we've done some setup, what I'd like to do is show you how you can use some of these little tools that we've set up. So I'm going to use Siri to open Maps. Hey Siri, open Maps. Brilliant. Now, it's really important that you make sure that this little assistive touch button is not in the road, because what I'm going to ask her to do is that I'm going to open the keyboard, and I'm going to speak in to search for a place. So I can tap on the microphone button. London. And once I've finished, just press the keyboard button to stop it dictating. Press the blue return button for it to search for London. So you can see there's London there. I'm going to click the flyover button. This is a really lovely feature of London. So at the moment you can see it is pretty flat. I can move my iPad to be able to see, and actually I can spin my iPad round. I could whizzle round in my chair, but because I'm filming this, it's a bit trickier to do. But what I'm going to do is tap on the screen. I'm going to press the button that says Start City Tour. Remember that my screen record button is up, or screenshot button is up on the top right here. So I'm going to press Start City Tour, and I'm just going to slide that away. Now, when I find a landmark that I want, it's coming up on the Shard. I'm going to tap on my screenshot button and then take a screenshot. Should I wish to take a picture of the tower, I can tap that again. and then I could get one as the map zooms in. That looks pretty cool. So you can see how easy it is to take a screenshot. I find that some students really struggle, especially using the home button and the off button. There's the gherkin. So I've just taken a screenshot there of the gherkin, and as it flies up to the top, there's the tip of the gherkin, one last one, and there we go. I'm just going to stop that flyover and pause that tour. So really simple way of using that. Hey Siri, open photos. So there's my photos. You can see the pictures that I've taken. I haven't had to interact with my iPad at all. I've just asked Siri to do the work for me. So let's have a look at my photo. That's a great picture of the gherkin. Look at that, it's fabulous. Now that we've got some pictures, you can see there's a picture of the Shard. That's in my photos. We took a picture of the Tower of London. We took a picture of the gherkin in different views. We need to choose an image that we want to be able to use. So say for instance we use the Tower of London. I really like this image. This is great. So what I'm going to do is two things. I'm going to open up notes. So I'm going to do that from the control center. I'm going to pull down, and then you can see that I've got notes in the control center. That is a quick shortcut to open a new note. Okay, now where's my photo gone? This is a bit annoying. So I'm going to use multitasking. So I'm going to slide the dock up. I'm going to take the photo icon, and I'm going to press and hold and slide it onto the side. Okay, now I'm just going to go back a little bit here, and I want this image. So I'm going to take this image, and I'm going to press and long hold on it, and then drag it into notes. There is my image. That looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to get Siri to do a little bit of a search for me. So let's see. Hey Siri, search for the Tower of London on Wikipedia.
The Tower of London, officially Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress
Brilliant.
of the Tower
So
of
if
London.
I tap in Wikipedia, it will open up Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia you have to be quite careful about, don't you? But we're going to use this for a demonstration purposes today. There's lots of text. There's lots of stuff on the screen. There's lots of information. And I find that students and adults get quite overwhelmed. So let's look at the reader view. Now, you probably wondered what these little buttons at the top of the screen mean, just at the menu bar. I'm going to click AA, and you can see there I've got a few choices. I can make the text on the website bigger. I'm going to go back down again, back to normal. I could tap on there, but actually what I want to do is click on Show Reader View and look at what it does. Okay, Reader View then cuts out the clutter, makes the text much bigger, and allows you to be able to get rid of some of those distractions, that clickbait, especially if you're doing some research. Now, we've set up our screen reader. So let's do a little bit of reading. So if I select a group of text and press speak.
The Tower of London, officially Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress of the Tower of London, is a historic.
Right, okay. It's only highlighted, it'll only read what you select. But you can see there I've got a different coloured background, and it reads each word as I'm working. So really, really nice, especially if there's lots of text to be able to read. Now, let's look at the other settings in the reader view. So you can alter the font in the reader view. So for instance, if you like that Georgia font or the New York font or the Palatino font, San Francisco is the default font for iPad. But it's only got a few different fonts. Students can then choose the ones that actually help them read better. Okay. Unfortunately, the dyslexia font doesn't appear even if you do have it installed, so which I do. We can also change the color of the background. So if you're in a very bright room, if you click the dark color, then what it does is it changes the color of the text, it changes the color of any of the hyperlinks, or any of the other text that's shaded in a different color, and allows you to be able to read that a little bit easier. Some students might want to adapt those settings. There's nothing worse than reading black text on a white sheet, especially for a dyslexic. So really, really simple way of using the reader view on the iPad. A few other top tips. We've already got our notes open, so let me just slide up here. There's my notes. Let's move that to the side again. There's my picture of the Tower of London. Now, we've already got information here from Wikipedia. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at copying URLs. Sometimes get them wrong. If you're using split screen like this, we can press and hold on the URL bar, drag it and drop it directly into notes. That then gives me a pictorial representation of the link, and when you tap on it, it will open the link for Wikipedia. You can do that as well with text. So say for instance, we want this text. If I press and hold that text, you get a border around it. I can drag, border around that, and I can drag that straight into my notes as well. Now, ideally what you want to be able to do is get students to annotate and narrate what they know about the Tower of London. So I'm going to use the dictation function just to record my own little speech about the Tower of London. I visited the Tower of London when I was 7, full stop. We were very lucky to have a family friend who was one of the chief beefeaters at the tower, and he took us to some places where the general public don't get to go. Full stop. My brother and I really enjoyed the visit. Full stop. And then when you've finished, click the keyboard button at the bottom right to stop recording. Now, that is pretty good. Notice that when I am narrating, I have to think about punctuation. So if you say full stop, comma, semicolon, colon, exclamation mark, it will do all of these things for you. So there's a few things that I want to maybe edit, so I'm going to change that to my brother and I really enjoyed the visit. So you can then go in and edit it. That looks much better. Okay.
I'm going to hand over to Emma, who Emma Flint is one of our dyslexia specialists at Tonoscope, and she is absolutely fantastic at supporting all the students that we've got with technology and with dyslexia. And I'm going to hand over to Emma and get her to tell you about how she uses some of the technology to support learning for SEND students. Emma.
Hi, Mark. So shall I just talk through what I had on the slide?
I'll get this slide up for you.
So I'm a teacher in the Learning Support Department at Tomlins Go. I teach mainly children with SEND. Not all children have SEND that I teach, but the majority of them. So Mark asked me to just talk about how I use assistive technology in my lessons. So I think that using assistive technology, it empowers independence. And that is one of the key things that I just think is brilliant about it, empowering our students to be able to independently use technology to support them in their learning and help themselves to make progress with their learning. So I just think it's fantastic. So I use assistive technology to support children with reading difficulties. So Mark showed us all about using the speak function on the iPad as an e-reader. So in lessons, if we're doing independent reading and there's children that I feel would benefit from this facility, they pop their headphones in and they can, any text that they can highlight on their iPad, it will read the text out loud to them. I recommend to them that they should highlight the text sentence by sentence rather than a huge great paragraph of text, because it helps them to process the meaning of each sentence before they move on to listening to the next sentence. Again, I think the reader view is fantastic for all students, and actually for me as well, because I just find it makes reading websites so much clearer without all the clutter. You know, brilliant that you can change the color of the background to make it easier to read, particularly if you've got visual stress difficulties. But for anybody, reading white text on stark white background is not very pleasant for our eyes. Another thing that I think the speak function is fantastic for is that it can be used in the English GCSE exam, English language exam, and normally children that can have a reader in their exams, they're not allowed to have a human reader in English language. However, they are allowed to have a computer reader. So it's really, really fantastic for those children. They can use it even in exams testing reading. Another thing that quite a few of my students use to help themselves is to set up a coloured filter on their iPad. So some dyslexic people, it helps to have a coloured filter, or if you have Erland syndrome, it may be a purple filter or a blue filter is really, really helpful and makes reading easier. So in terms of supporting writing and processing difficulties in my lessons, I think the dictation tool is fantastic. We've sort of touched on how some students, they are brilliant verbally, but then they find it really difficult to kind of get their thoughts down on paper. So using the dictation tool to, for example, plan what they're going to write, to just get their ideas down, and then they can use those ideas that have been recorded to then support themselves when they're writing. Another thing that is really helpful, and this could be used with all children, is that if the lesson involves a group discussion, they can use their iPad to actually record the group discussion, and then they're able to come back to it later and revisit it. A lot of the children I teach, they have spelling difficulties or writing difficulties. So some children, if we feel that they benefit from this, they will have the spell check turned on their iPad all the time, and some of them will have their grammar check. And again, it just helps them to take away that barrier that, for example, dyslexia brings. So they may struggle with spelling, so we'll allow them to use the spell check so that they can focus on the composition of their writing. Siri, the children I teach love using Siri to look up word meanings, word definitions, find spellings. And another thing that I use quite a lot the iPad for is using markup. So that is where you can take a photograph of a piece of text, and then you can use markup to kind of annotate on top of the photograph. So it's quite good for those children who you know, not writing is a barrier for them. It kind of reduces the amount of writing that they need to do. They can sort of do fill the gaps exercises using markup. They can also use it to edit each other's work and peer mark, give peer assessment. So yeah, they're the key things that I use assistive technology for to support the children in my lessons.
Thank you, Emma. I think the key thing is, guys, that going back to the very beginning, it's all about everybody using the technology, and everybody can benefit from using it. As Emma said, clickbait is a great thing, but when you ask the students to do a bit of research, they get lost. And actually, if you use a reader view just to get rid of a lot of those distractions, I don't know about you, but I can't cope. Same as you, Emma. When I need to focus, then that's what I end up doing.
Yeah.
Right. Any questions this evening, ladies and gentlemen? It's a bit of a struggle tonight, as you saw. It's not usually like this.
No, definitely not.
No, really not. I'm gonna have to speak to somebody about some aircon for up here, because it
Just need some airflow.
Yeah, Yeah, that's the one.
This is the newest building on the site, and it's supposed to be self-regulating in temperature.
Yeah, it doesn't.
My face has gone almost as red as my shirt as well, I've realised.
Yeah, it's pretty much. So lots of stuff. Why is it important to put learning in your own words? Absolutely. So using this the microphone function to dictate what's going on the screen is really key, and it's really helpful for students to be able to verbalize and actually listen to what they have to say. So when they say something, or use the dictation function, they can actually physically see what it is they're saying. And that it is, so I had a visitation from our head of, one of our English teachers this afternoon. She said she asked somebody to do a screen recording, and actually the screen recording was really good because there wasn't any ums or uhs or buts or whatever. And actually, but you could see the clarity in what they were trying to say, which is great. Emma, you're muted, lovely.
I was on mute. Something that I think is beneficial for all children is recording their voice, reading back their writing,
Yes.
and then listening back to their voice. It just helps them to identify, oh, well, that doesn't make sense because I've missed a word out there, or oh, I need to add to that sentence to make it make sense. So them actually, so sort of hearing their own voice, reading out their writing, it can be a really good proofreading tool as well for all children. I found that really helpful in my lessons as well.
I think that's something that Stu and I have touched on in previous sessions when we looked at Pages and Keynote, that actually if students have the ability to be able to practice what they have to write, then it gives them so much more confidence. And I know that I've spoken to Ailsa and Rachel at Frimley that they're little boys that don't like writing are great at speaking. So get them to do it and get them to speak and get them to just get their ideas down, and that will increase their confidence in what they're doing.
It gives them that opportunity to experience a level of mastery as well of what they're doing.
Yeah.
They then get that belief. Do you know what? Actually, I know what I'm talking about. This is what it needs to look like, and they can practice then the written side of things, and it's that two-way sort of street on it, I guess, that they can do both. They can write it out, get it spoken back to them, but they can also dictate it when they're less confident to build some of that understanding and confidence as they go through.
So hopefully you've attended lots of our sessions before, and you see that this evening was a bit of a hiccup with our technical difficulties. But if you would like to book on some of our sessions, it's really exciting to have Ailsa on the call tonight because she's joining the team, which is really exciting. So she's going to be our primary specialist on the team. And we'll see more of her as we go through. So that's great. Lovely to see you tonight, Ailsa. We will be, so book on some of our other sessions. We've got 3 further sessions this term so far.
Yep.
Stu's just posting in the chat the Gallup Learning and Research survey. Click the link before you leave the meeting to access it so that you can then see what's going on. So coming up next week, we're going to be looking at managing your classroom with Apple Classroom. It's a brilliant tool to enable you to have complete clarity of what is going on in the classroom with the children in front of you. Mastering your vocab with Quizlet, fantastic, really great tool. I'm going to a webinar tomorrow with Quizlet to find out what's new with Quizlet, so I look forward to that. And then we're going to finish off our Apple Teacher sessions with Keynote at the end of the month. And hopefully by then, all of you that have come to all the sessions will have got your Apple Teacher badge. Yay! That would be great.
That'd be awesome.
So all the workshops are published on our RTC Eventbrite page. Thank you so much for coming on such a warm evening. Yeah. Thank you so much for Stu, as always, to keep me going when it all goes horribly wrong.
You're welcome, Helen, by the way.
Brilliant. So you can do that tomorrow. Yeah. Helen, I will see you tomorrow night. Hopefully GarageBand will work a little bit better when it's not quite so warm. So as always, I will be here to answer any questions. I'll witter away. Stu's going to run to let his wife go and get her hair cut, which is probably more important. than staying here. So you just have to
It's
put up
probably
with
more
me.
important that I get home to look after the kids than let my wife go and get the.
Can they not do
haircut.
that themselves?
No.
No. Oh, sorry.
Not yet.
So you know where we are. I'm just going to stay on the call. If you've got anything to ask, please unmute, have a chat. Thank you, Emma. Play. If you've got any questions, then post. Send me an email. Put it on Twitter, and we'll do what we can to answer your questions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikki. It's great.
Twitter, Eventbrite, and the research links are in the chat. Obviously, as Mark said, don't forget to access them before you leave, because they won't be available on the chat to you, unfortunately, when you leave.
No, when you leave, yeah.